It's official! I've hit 2,000 subscribers. I've also gotten monetized.
You gave her a coin.
And I got a new microphone. So now I don't have to do that anymore. Hey guys, it's Razjaz. Welcome to the 2000 subscribers special, a Rusty Lake tier list made by me. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it in the end. It was even originally a 1000 subscriber special. By the way, don't worry, Rusty Lake Timeline Part 5 is still on the way. I also want to give a huge thank you to Rusty Lake, both for the Key for Cube Escape collection and for wishing me happy birthday. Anyways, like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want to support the channel, and you can hit the bell for notifications. I'll also include my social media down below. Alright, let's begin. This is a tier list I created. Very proud of how it came out. There's even some really funny things that I did, like for the second icon that I have, the one of the corrupted soul. I wanted to find a corrupted soul that wasn't explicitly known, and that kind of limited my options because, for example, we know that the corrupted soul in theater is Bob. We know that the corrupted soul in Seasons is Laura. But then, just by accident, I found the one that was in Cube Escape Paradox. And the one in Cube Escape Paradox is just so funny with this pose that I hope someone makes a meme out of this. I try to put a lot of thought in this. Maybe people will catch other funny things I did, but I'll leave that for everyone in the comments or people who just want to find these things for themselves. I'm going to make this link shareable, and I'm also going to put it in my video description. So if you guys want to do this, you can even change the tier name. You can rank it by how much you like the characters, how well you think they're written, whatever other way you want to. I hope you guys all have fun doing that because this is really, it was hard to make this, but I think it was worth it because now lots of people will be able to hopefully use this. And also I'm going to have a lot of fun ranking all these characters. This is going to be fun because this is going to be my first tier maker list I've ever done on a YouTube video. I mean, this is only my 5th video. And also, once again, thank you so much everyone for 1,000 subscribers. I'm so blown away by all your guys' support. I really hope that we can continue to have dialogue back and forth, me replying to your comments, you guys replying to me, fun conversations, or just having some deep lore conversations. I've seen some of you people have very smart theories in the comments, so props to you guys. Thank you for supporting me. Thanks for 1,000 subscribers. And yeah, by the time I'm working on this video and uploading it, I'm past 1,000 subscribers. I'm sorry this video came out so late, but I'm improving. I'm still really new at this YouTube thing, so okay. I decided to go from Enlightened to Naraka. The first tier at the top is Enlightened, and that's pretty obvious if you know the Rusty Lake lore. It's a high stage in the Samsara cycle. For Enlightened, these are characters that I consider top tier. It's the typical S tier in a tier list. Characters that blow me away in just how they're written, or how much I just love how they are as a character. And I decided to make it gold because there's a little nod to the golden cube. Then we have Iconic, which is represented by the white cube, which is why I use the white color. And that's good memories, like the white cube suggests. Characters that when you see this, you're like, oh, this is Rusty Lake. Creepy is the next tier because usually something being creepy is like a bad thing in your life, right? But Rusty Lake is basically built up on creepy storytelling, creepy visuals. The Lost Souls, much like the Black Cube, is a lot about the potential. So it's like, what went wrong? Because I think these are the characters that they have potential, or I thought I liked them. But the more we find out about them, or the more they're used, you're just kind of like, I need more, or, oh, you're not who I thought you were. The Rusty tier is the forgettable characters, whether it just be they just appear once and I don't have any sort of attachment to them, or they might appear in multiple games and I just don't care for them. Then we have the red tier, which is Naraka, which is the Sanskrit word for hell, and the lake itself actually represents Naraka if you go deep into the game's lore. I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of shock for some of my opinions. People are gonna get mad at me. They're gonna come for me just like Laura's corrupted soul came for Harvey once she rose back from the dead. But these are just my opinions, and I will explain myself, okay? Let's begin with our tier list. I'm going to be going in order of when they appeared for the first time in the games, when we see them first. Either see a picture of them or some sort of indication physically. We're going to start with Laura. So Laura is a very interesting character because we start the whole Cube Escape series with the mystery of her death. And then we see glimpses of her corpse throughout the games. We start to see people who are connected to her. We even get her origin story at one point. The thing about Laura is that I initially really loved her as a character and thought she was very important to the strength of the story, which she still is. And I would have put her in Iconic or even Enlightened maybe, but not probably Enlightened because we didn't know much about her. But after the White Door and what we found out, it felt like she was very dismissive to Bob. The way she handled things, especially when we saw her in flashbacks and when we saw her even in Bob's mind, it just gives me this really bitter taste in my mouth about how little it seems she cared about that poor guy. And I'm gonna have to put her in Lost Souls. I still think there might be things we don't know about her, and obviously she was going through severe depression, so I'm going to cut her some slack. Everyone, when they go through mental breaks, it's very normal for people to not be themselves or distance from people. I 100% understand that. But yeah, I don't know. I just think she took it too far though with Bob. Let's move on to the Corrupted Soul. I'm going to have to put the Corrupted Soul in Enlightened. The Corrupted Soul is in almost every game. It's arguably the face of all of Rusty Lake. Whenever people think of this game, I'm sure this is one of the first things they think of. And it's such a simple design, but it just stays in your memory with those glowing white eyes and the tingly little lines that surround it that make it look kind of like a flickering TV image. So it's visually very interesting. Also, it's kind of heart-wrenching the more you think about it, because you realize the Corrupted Soul is usually related to people who are very mentally disturbed. People like Laura, people like Vincent van Gogh, people like Bob. Corrupted souls are always just linked to tragedy and horrible mental states. The sadness that goes into that lore, they have to be in that spot for me. Next we have Harvey. Harvey for me is definitely iconic, and I did that with no hesitation. The reason why I didn't put him in Enlightened is because we don't know enough about Harvey yet. We don't really know his motivations, his intentions, what he really knows, what he's really capable of. He's probably the most mysterious character in the whole game. Laura says in Cube Escape Paradox that it all starts with Harvey's egg. That's a very puzzling statement. We don't really know what she means by that. And here's the thing too, Harvey, we don't really know what Harvey's gender is. Harvey lays eggs, so you would think that Harvey's female, but then Harvey's name is male. Harvey could just be non-binary. Harvey's a very multifaceted, complex character, and I really hope that we get an origin story for them soon. Harvey seems to know a lot. They've been around for a very long time because we saw them in Roots and even in a secret achievement in Rusty Lake Paradise. More than 2 centuries of screen time. Yeah, I just really hope we find out more about Harvey soon. Okay, next we're going to move on to the moth. The moth, I'd say the moth is creepy. The moth doesn't really make that many appearances, and it also doesn't have its own character, but whenever the moth is used, it's utilized in a cool, creepy, atmospheric way. Next, we move on to the hand. I'd say the hand is also creepy. The thing is that we don't really know why the hand appears. Maybe this is just me, but I like it when symbolism has some sort of meaning that you can trace, which is why I love making theories. What's like a good thing I can think of? The fact that whenever the fish or the shrimp are around, it seems to be referring to the lake pervading reality. It makes sense because the shrimp and fish are actually sea creatures that you would find. So it is out of the blue and very surrealistic, but it's grounded though. Grounded is the last thing you would probably say about Rusty Lake, but yeah. I do appreciate seeing the hand. It's fun to see. I enjoy whenever it appears on screen because then you're like, ah, there it is, that little Rusty Lake symbol. It's basically like the matches. You can't have a Rusty Lake game without finding some matches in the drawer. Next, we're going to go with the fish. And for the fish, I will say iconic because this fish with the blue body and the pink fins, it's very specific and it always appears in that form throughout the games. Even when the art style changes, it always has that basic kind of outline. The fish are just very prominent. And we found out that Mr. Owl in the future will become a fish somehow. So is that trying to imply that everyone who becomes the leader of the lake end up being fish in the lake of Rusty Lake? Because that's some very interesting lore. The little picture that I use is from Cube Escape Theater when it starts flying, because I was like, if I'm going to choose a picture for the fish, it's going to be when it's at its most bizarre state. Yeah, Rusty Lake doing its classic Rusty Lake shenanigans. The newscaster, I'd say, is Rusty, no hesitation. I think he serves his purpose well, and we see him in only 2 games, but he doesn't really need personality. He's just there to deliver the news, and I'll applaud him for giving us the actual context of the universe. Laura's death actually happened, it's actually on the news. That adds a lot to the story. We're gonna move on to the shrimp, and for the shrimp, I'd say enlightened, but people might be like, wait, why is the fish an iconic, but the shrimp an enlightened? The thing is, the shrimp has transcended just being a character in Rusty Lake. Whenever my friends and I, who are really into Rusty Lake, talk about the games, a lot of time we'll send each other a shrimp emoji. Even the developers of the games, they'll even be posting emojis of the shrimp, and it's just become a symbol for the games. It's also just such a unique animal to have. When have you ever thought that you would see shrimp in a supernatural, horror, psychological kind of game? It's just so outlandishly bizarre to have a shrimp be such a huge symbol throughout all of the games that I just have to have that in the enlightened tier. For the pigeon, I think I'm going to say Lost Souls. I'm not really sure what the purpose of the pigeon was. We know that the pigeon could be alluding to Margaret, the grandmother from Rusty Lake Paradise, who's also Mrs. Pigeon, but I don't understand why the pigeon would want to help Harvey, because Harvey killed Mrs. Pigeon in that hotel. The only theory I could come up with, maybe that corrupted soul that gets the wings could be the corrupted soul of Mrs. Pigeon, and maybe the pigeon was trying to get Harvey out of the box so that Harvey could actually be killed by that corrupted soul so that Mrs. Pigeon could get revenge. That's the best theory I could come up with, but who knows. Vincent Van Gogh for me is going to go in the enlightened tier. I think Rusty Lake was absolutely brilliant for incorporating Vincent Van Gogh. Vincent Van Gogh in real life was actually a very troubled man. He even spent the last few years of his life in an asylum. And the scenery of Cube Escape Arles, it's a cool allusion to real life. It gets even deeper when you consider the fact that the Rusty Lake game developers are based in the Netherlands, and Vincent Van Gogh himself is from the Netherlands. It's pretty mind-blowing because it grounds the game in reality and gives us a location to this bizarre world. What better way to connect to real life history than to use a man who expresses pain in art? Very similar to how a lot of the characters themselves, like Emma from Rusty Lake Roots, is painting something before she dies. Also, it shows him kind of get freed from his corrupted soul. It kind of gives an alternate happy ending to the horrors of his life. I really like what they did with him. I used to watch Doctor Who a lot, and there was an episode on Vincent Van Gogh, and it really deepened my appreciation. Next we have Vincent Van Gogh's roommate Paul. The thing that's tough about him is that I would say he's iconic, but he only appears in one game and I feel like no one remembers him. But no, I'll put him iconic because he's just really funny, where he just wants his hat and he's like, I don't know what's going on. It's memorable enough for me. Yeah, he's gonna get the iconic tier. Okay, everyone is going to be shocked at this one. So the next character we have is Aldous, which is Mr. Crow. By the way, I actually edited all the characters that had animal alter personas, and I think the one I'm most proud of is the one of Mr. Deer. It was annoying to make them, but it was also worth it once I was proud of what I did. For me, Mr. Crow actually goes into hell tier. I think Mr. Crow is the worst character in all of the games. Not writing wise. I think Mr. Crow is one of the best written characters in all the games. But what I mean is his personality and the things that he's done. You could honestly trace every death to Mr. Crow, maybe excluding a few, but he's horrible. Trust me, I'll make a whole video on him in the future. Then it'll make sense. The fish person. I feel like the fish person for me goes into creepy. Whenever the fish person appears, which has been twice, it's just kind of bizarre because it kind of makes you start to have a whole lot of questions. One of the things that Rusty Lake does best. We might find out more about this fish person and see whether they have some kind of real implications in the game series. For the Fireflies, I'm honestly going to say Rusty, because I know that the Fireflies have some significance in the games, because they seem to have some kind of effect where the light from the Fireflies is what wards off the corrupted souls, but they're not significant enough to me to be any higher personally. Next we have Caroline. It would be a crime not to put her in Enlightened. Caroline is so crazy to me because just the way that she was written up, because we get her foreshadowed all the way in Cube Escape 23. She's teased for the first time in the 5th game, but she doesn't really play into the storyline until we see her origins in the 12th game in Rusty Lake Paradise. So that just really shows how much dedication Rusty Lake has and how much they know what they're doing in advance with the plot. It just blows my mind. It even gets crazier because when you're in Cube Escape Case 23, there's another reference to Caroline 2 in that same game where the Russian nesting dolls, the first one, the largest, is Caroline Islander. She has the same color scheme and she's holding a rose in the Russian nesting doll. And one of the memories from Rusty Lake Paradise has Caroline holding a rose in her hand. I remember I was just casually playing all the games in order again way before I had YouTube channel, and when I was playing Case 23 and I opened the file, I was like, wait, that looks familiar. Then I went to Rusty Lake Paradise and I was like, oh my god, it's Caroline. Dale Vandermeer. I think it's a no-brainer to put Dale in Enlightened. I think he has a very funny personality. He's a very memeable character, but he also has a lot of depth to him. He has a very tragic past where he witnessed the death of his parents. He seems to have a lot of mental issues from what we learned in Cube Escape Paradox. He's also a very intelligent man because we see Cube Escape Case 23 from his perspective, and he's able to deduce things very quickly with such sparse evidence at his hands. I really like Dale because Cube Escape Case 23 for me was the first game where the Rusty Lake game started to make sense, so I have to give him props for that. I don't like how they changed his character design to fit the new actor. I was kind of attached to the way that Dale was drawn, and I'd say the same thing for Laura too, but I do really like the fact that Rusty Lake tried to make them look more detailed to fit the artistic scheme of the other characters. Anyway, our next character is Bob. I would have been shocked to say this before the White Door had come out, but after the White Door came out, it really blew up my appreciation for Bob, and to be honest, I think he's now my favorite character. I just feel so bad for him. He was dragged out of his normal life. He just worked at a bird food company. He just wanted to have a simple life with his girlfriend. He seemed to be a supportive boyfriend, and he just gets caught up in this whole crazy mess where he gets driven to depression, and eventually the events that happen to him are horrible. He's accused for killing his girlfriend when he doesn't actually have anything to do with the murder. But for the longest time, we're all suspicious of him, and that makes me feel really bad for him. Justice for Bob. Bob deserved way better. The policeman, just like the newscaster, gets rusty for me. He didn't need to have a huge personality or huge backstory, so I think it's fitting that he's just in the rusty category. Next, we have the Gray Cat from Cube Escape Case 23, and for the Gray Cat, I think I'm going to say Lost Souls. I used to think that the cat from Case 23 was related to the cat from Cube Escape Birthday, but on further inspection, they're different colors, and we never really saw them drink the elixir that the dog did, so I'm sure the cat is not necessarily immortal. For that reason, to me the cat was just lost potential, and they could have done more with him, but perhaps will appear in a future game. Next, we have the deer. I think the deer is going to go into creepy for me. Deer imagery is huge in Rusty Lake. We see a lot of symbols with it. We see deer masks. We see headless deer. Deer are very important throughout the Rusty Lake games, and it also drives me nuts because a lot of us are just really in the dark about what the deer mean in the grand scope of the game. I really hope that we start to get to learn more about the deer, and I hope that we get to learn how the characters that were associated with the deer are related to each other. Those characters being Albert Vanderboom, Dale Vandermeer, and Mr. Islander. The old lady from the mill, I think I might put her into Lost Souls. She had more potential, but I just wish we knew more about her identity. Was she just the wife of Mr. Crow? And a lot of people have theories that she might be Rose Vanderboom, and I could probably see that. I don't know, I just wish we knew more about her. For now, she goes into Lost Souls. I really hope that we get to learn more about her in the future. If we never do learn more about her, what we do know is she was in some way close to Mr. Crow because they have a picture together in the mill. The cow for me, I think the cow for me goes into Rusty because I don't really get the point of having the cow appear through the games, and it doesn't really serve some kind of purpose. I think the duck for me is Okay, let's move on. So I think that the duck is probably going to go into, I think this might be a funny opinion to have, but I think the duck's gonna go into iconic for me. It's just so funny how the duck just keeps eating more and more and more until you can just plop him into your inventory. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm going to move the old lady up to creepy. It's just so bizarre how she eats the fish and the duck just straight up with the bone and everything whole, and she does it within one gulp. Yeah, she has to go up for me. Mr. Owl, I really do feel that he has a tragic backstory where he finds out that his family is responsible for burning his mother alive. And also, Mr. Owl has a huge presence even in the games that he's not in. His imagery is throughout all of the games. The more we learn about him, the more intrigued I become. He's just really well done. So I feel like I'd put Mr. Owl in Enlightened. He's done messed up things like Mr. Crow, but it seems like Mr. Owl has better intentions from what I've seen. And also, technically, I think Mr. Owl does become enlightened, so it's fitting for him to be in this category, similar to his mother. Okay, Jacob's father, now that we went from Jacob to his dad, he's definitely getting Naraka. He's a horrible person. He's the one responsible for the death of the love of his life. I do not like him. Next, we have David, who's also Mr. Rabbit. I'd say he's iconic. He does some really funny things in the games, like that weird debacle with the frogs. There's just so much we don't really know about him. He's had so many different looks for his corrupted soul. I wonder if that choice is done on purpose. We've seen him as a white rabbit, as a brown rabbit, as a white rabbit with a cloak. It puzzles me. I really want to know more about why David / Mr. Rabbit had to go to Dale's birthday and do what he had to do. I really hope that we get an origin story or that we get something for him down the line. Margaret, I mean, with that famous line that I love so much.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, you know I'm going to put Margaret in iconic. Who doesn't love their grandma? And I mean, she can make burgers. That's all I need to make a character in the iconic tier. Next we have Caroline. I think Caroline... I'm sorry, why did I call her Caroline? I meant Elizabeth. Okay, so Elizabeth for me, I think might go into Enlightened. She's such a mysterious character. She appears in the theater, so she seems to have a presence much more than most of the corrupted souls in the games. I just love the mystery surrounding her character. Every mysterious line that she says makes me wonder more about her. Like her infamous line where she says, "Fear didn't make me blind." What did make Elizabeth Islander blind? She has a very creepy, atmospheric kind of presence, and I hope we get to know more about Miss Pheasant and Elizabeth and why she seems to know so much. By the way, a lot of these characters are voiced by the same person, Bob Rafferty. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Bob. I love his work in the Rusty Lake universe. The reason why I brought Bob is it's cool because she sounds very convincingly like a creepy woman.
Good to feel your presence again, brother.
Unlike Margaret, who sounds very clearly like a man.
They're everywhere.
Next, we're going to go on to Mr. Boar. Gerard / Mr. Boar is not really a memorable character to me. I do see all the parallels between his versions, but I think I would put him in Lost Souls. I could put him in Iconic because of how funny he is, but I feel like I wish we had more with his character. The only things we really know about him is that he rams the submarine that Mr. Crow is in, and that he also seems to have some kind of obsession with food. Another thing worth mentioning about Gerard is the fact that there's a parallel between him and Vincent van Gogh, and the fact that both of them have an ear shaven off. That's kind of interesting to think about. Mr. Toad to me, I think goes into, I don't know whether to put him into creepy or iconic. I feel like iconic because he's not scary. This creepy category is starting to make me wonder if I made the best choice of making that a tier. But I just think that Mr. Toad is just really funny. He just flicks his tongue at you constantly, and he's such a bizarre character. I think Mr. Bat goes into creepy. I like the scene where the shooting star appears in Rusty Lake Hotel and you start chasing him around the lobby. And I also like his recurring appearances. I like how he appears as an upside down bat in Cube Escape the Cave. And I also like the fact that he's alluded to again in Cube Escape Paradox with the secret ending where you give him the golden cube. For the chick from Rusty Lake Hotel, I think I'm going to put into Lost Souls. I think that the chick is very memorable, but I wish we knew more background about the chick. How did the chick get to the hotel? Is that actually a real person in real life? I just really wish we knew more about why this character is so important. Mr. and Mrs. Vandermeer, I think I could rank together. They're both very quirky, funny characters that say random dialogue. They're very clueless and naive, but they also have a very haunting presence later in the games. They're very persistent ghosts and trauma for Dale. Whenever they appear, it's just very bittersweet. So I feel like for that reason, I'm going to have to put them in the creepy. The grandpa is definitely going into iconic. I think he's very delusional, and I also have a lot of theories about him, but I'll share more of that later. Next, we have the black cat. I think the black cat, similar to the gray cat, will go into Lost Souls. We don't really know much about him. They're not linked like I thought they were. I just hope we find out more about the cats. William Vanderboom, to me, has to go into the Enlightened category. I think William goes into creepy, actually. We don't know much about his personality. All we know is that he made the elixir, and we also know that he reincarnates into Laura, but we don't know too much about him. He definitely adds to the creepy atmosphere of Rusty Lake, but I wouldn't say he's memorably iconic per se, and I wouldn't also say that he's one of my favorite characters, or one of the characters I find just super, super interesting. James. I think everyone's going to agree that James goes into Naraka. What kind of scumbag tests a potion that can potentially kill someone on their dog? You have to be a very deranged person to do that. I think Mary, I was going to put her in Lost Souls, but I'm going to put her into Rusty. When you stop to think about it, Mary is a horrible parent. All of the characters lived together in that house in Rusty Lake Roots. She was nowhere to be found when Albert got traumatized, when all these things happened throughout the house that led to all these horrible incidents. I feel like she should have been way more responsible for what was going on. Not to say that James shouldn't have been a responsible father, but you guys already saw my opinion of James. The only reason she's not on the same tier as James is because she didn't actively kill anyone. I think Samuel is going to have to go into Rusty as well. Samuel was a horrible person. He was one of the more normal family members in Rusty Lake Roots, but he's a huge reason why Albert turned out the way he did. Then moving on to the next triplet, I'd say Emma. I don't know how I'd rank Emma. I feel bad for her, but she's also responsible for how Albert turned out. I don't know. I'd say actually Emma goes into creepy. It's so fascinating how Emma suddenly ages after the grief of her lost child. The fact that she gets impregnated by a flower. There's also the fact that she seems to have some kind of knowledge of William's soul watching her. When she's painting the picture, she actually does paint a corrupted soul. Next, we have Albert. Now, I know I said all these strong opinions about not liking characters, about them having been responsible for deaths, but Albert is the villain you root for. He's a very messed up person because everything he did to Ida. He took out revenge on his nephew. That's some very messed up stuff that not even child trauma can excuse. But he's also a very big meme and a very big face for Rusty Lake. I just really appreciate all the storytelling they did for Albert. I'm going to put Albert in iconic. And I'm really excited, by the way, for the past within to see more about what Albert was doing, how his mind works, all this kind of crazy stuff. Next, we have the dog. So I think the dog is going to go into iconic. He laughs at death, serves James right for trying to test something on him. Yeah, I think the dog is going to get iconic for very obvious reasons. Next we have Ida. Ida is going to go into iconic. I would put her in enlightened, but I think Ida is kind of stupid because she's a fortune teller, but she decided to stay with the family even though she knew that would lead to her death. She adds a lot of creepiness, which would go into the creepy tier, but I think even above that, she's just a character I enjoy to watch. Out of all the people I could have married into the Vandermeer family, she's just such an interesting choice. And I really love the way that Rusty Lake incorporated fortune telling into their universe. Next we have Frank. Frank has had a really tragic life, and I do really feel bad for him. To be honest, I think I'm going to put Frank in enlightened. Frank has a really awesome recovery from the things that were done to him, and it's horrible what ultimately happens to him, so I just feel really bad. Okay, next we have Leonard. So for Leonard, I think we are going to, I don't know how I'm going to rank Leonard. I don't know. He's not creepy. He's definitely not iconic and is not enlightened. I think I'm going to put Leonard in Lost Souls. He's probably, like I said before, the most rational character in the whole family because he tried to escape it. I do feel bad for the World War I trauma he had. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick with that. Rose, for me, is going to go into creepy. She definitely serves that purpose. I think Rose's origin story is very disturbing. I give props to it because Rusty Lake did a really good job in writing that dark storyline. Yeah, I think I'm going to put her in creepy. I think it makes the most sense considering we see her with a Ouija board and how she always just seems to be staring into your soul. The fisherman, I'm going to put into creepy. I know we've only seen him once in the actual games rather than in the logos. The character in the logos could just be Mr. Crow, but I just find it so bizarre the way he makes that cameo in Cube Escape the Cave. Could this be a reference to Dale because of the fact that he's wearing that brown coat? It also starts to make me wonder why he's making so many limp movements where he's spelling out things with his body. For the Fly David, I'm gonna put him iconic. It's so bizarrely funny. It just really helps add to the crazy atmosphere that Rusty Lake gives within all its games. This one's a tough one for the Plague Doctor because I love history. It was really cool to have the bubonic plague referenced in Rusty Lake, even though it's not the time period. Yeah, I'm just gonna put him in iconic. I was going to put him in creepy, but for me personally, I just really love that character. Then for the Mantis, I'm going to put the Mantis in creepy. It's funny when he lifts up Margaret. I think the thing that keeps the Mantis not an iconic is that he doesn't speak to me, I guess. Now let's move on to our 3 live action short film characters. I think for me, Dale has to go in iconic. The actor just seems to be an all-around fun person, and I could just sense that he really enjoyed what he was doing from the behind the scenes photos and the clips that they showed. The only reason I wouldn't put him in enlightened, I still kind of miss the Dale we got in Case 23. I feel like he was altered in some sort of way, but to be fair, he is a good homage to Cube Escape Theater Dale. Overall, I think he was an awesome Dale. He did a great job. I think that movie Laura for me is actually going to get enlightened. The way she appears in the short film is brilliant. It reminds me of Cube Escape Seasons. Every appearance that she has is spooky. It's not scary, but it has that creepy atmosphere that the Rusty Lake games have. She really did feel like the embodiment of Laura, just this very silent figure lurking in the shadows. I think for Mr. Crow in the movie, I'm going to give him the Lost Souls category. The Rusty Lake creators worked on making that mask from real feathers and put a lot of work into it. So I do appreciate the costuming, but I'm sorry, when Mr. Crow turned towards the camera, I actually laughed. It was so bizarre to see him from that angle. Another reason why Mr. Crow doesn't go higher on this list for me is because I didn't like that his voice was changed. He used to have a distinct, glitchy kind of voice that was reminiscent of Twin Peaks. But once we get to the movie, he starts to have a similar voice to Mr. Owl, and I feel like that takes away from his uniqueness.
A place to empty the mind.
Continue your journey.
Next, we have the Robin from the White Door. I'm going to put the Robin in Enlightened. I think the Robin was such an amazing symbol throughout the White Door. Just one game, and it made such an impression on me. It kind of shows subtle indications of Bob's mental state throughout each day he's at the facility. The Robin really represents how he has to let go of everything. Because the Robin indicates the day he met Laura, and it's temporary, much like Laura was in his life. And he just has to deal with that loss. And I feel like that's beautiful. And I also have to say that music from day 7 was gorgeous. It just blows my mind every time I listen to it, and I really want to give out a shout out to Victor. I'll play it right now and you guys will see what I mean. Since we're talking about the White Door, let's just get through all the other characters that appear in it. Sarah will go into creepy. We don't know a lot about her, but she definitely adds to the atmosphere of the games. But I think Sarah, out of all these characters, she's the most likely to jump to Enlightened because of the epilogue and in the secret levels of the White Door. She is gutsy enough to stand up against Mr. Owl and do her own thing. The boss is going to Naraka. She's the reason Bob got fired, so I don't like it. The bouncer is going to go into Iconic. He was just so funny. I just love the accent that they gave him. It's just so out of place, but it just works. I also think it's a crazy plot twist when we find out that he's the taxi driver. Dr. Horn, creepy. It's disturbing that we don't know a lot about him. Dr. Horn actually attempted to log into the mainframe of the White Door facility, but then an error flashed on the message board. Rusty Lake actually uploaded a news footage reel of Dr. Horn found dead. Why did Dr. Horn do what he did? Why did he put himself in jeopardy like that? Next, we have Kirsten Horn, going to go in Enlightened. She has the guts to stand up to Rusty Lake itself and be like, hey, don't post this of my dad. Please take it down. And then also she does a shameless Instagram plug. It was very creative and tech savvy of Rusty Lake to incorporate social media into the White Door art and to do it through a character like Kirsten Horn. Next, we have the Corrupted Souls from the White Door. I think I could rake all of these together, to be honest. I'd put them in the creepy category. We already know how corrupted souls work and how creepy they are, but I wish we had more explanation on why those specific animals are chosen. Why are animals like the bird, the fish, and the worm so related to William when he's transitioning into becoming Laura? Finally, we're going to go with the stork. The stork is going to go into creepy because of that weird scene where he coughs up the baby. He normally associates storks with babies. Rusty Lake was basically like, yes, let's do that, but make it Rusty Lake and make it completely disturbing. And wow, yeah, that's my tier list. I spent way more time than I thought I would on it. Please don't. I feel like a lot of people might be mad at me for where I put Mr. Crow. And don't get me wrong, I still love how Mr. Crow is written. But anyways, if anyone wants to do this tier list, you guys can check out my description and I'll have a link to it below. I hope everyone had fun watching this tier list. And I want to thank everyone again for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. And at the time that I'm recording this, I even hit 1,500 subscribers. Thank you all for your continued support. I'm very excited to make a lot more videos on Rusty Lake in the future. And even though this channel is not supposed to be just Rusty Lake is always going to be a huge part of this channel. Most of all, it comes down to the support from everyone watching. Thank you so much. And also thank you so much to Rusty Lake developers and everyone involved for putting your time and energy and passion into making such a beautiful game series. Take care of yourselves, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.